Hi there. My name is Laura Packer, and I am a storyteller, communications consultant, and the author of From Audience to Zeal, the ABCs of Finding, Crafting, and Telling a Great Story, released by Small Tooth Dog Press. I'm here today to celebrate the upcoming release of the Audience to Zeal workbook, which includes all kinds of applications and suggested readings from this book for different people. So whether you are a doctor, a new storyteller, an experienced storyteller, a teacher who wants to use storytelling with students, someone who wants to use it for fundraising, or just someone who's thinking about how you can dig in a little deeper, there are all kinds of exercises there for you. But one of the foundational essays in this book is one that I would like to share with you today, because until you understand this, your path to be a storyteller will be much more challenging. So today, let me remind you that L is for listening, from audience to zeal. There was a wonderful radio program on NPR called This I Believe, in which various people wrote and read essays on their core beliefs. These ranged from forgiveness to science to faith and more, and I would listen to these essays transfixed. I was moved to write my own This I Believe essay. I wrote more than one, in fact, as I found I have several core beliefs, but I kept coming back to the same things: kindness, compassion, and listening. I believe in listening. When asked to define myself, I often start with, I am a listener. This may seem like an odd thing for a storyteller to say. After all, my craft requires people to listen to me. Do I have to listen to them? Yes. When you think about it, storytelling starts with listening. Without a listener, the storyteller, no matter how superb, is talking to the wind. The wind may be an excellent listener, but because storytelling is an experience based on relationships, and most of us don't have a two-way relationship with the wind, we need active and engaged listeners. Storytellers listen to their audiences while they tell their stories and shape the tale to meet the needs of those audiences. It's a relationship, a dance, not just a rote performance. Storytellers who listen to the world around them in their daily lives can craft stories that are more recognizable, where the audience can find themselves and their own story with more ease. These stories, where the audience doesn't have to work as hard, give the storyteller a way to reach their listeners and connect with them more deeply, thus creating a more satisfying experience for all. We're more likely to remember a story where we find ourselves in some way than a story where we find completely alien. As it turns out, we're all Luke Skywalker, Sleeping Beauty, and the Big Bad Wolf. There's more to it than that. We must all be listeners to the world. When we listen intently to those around us, we have a much better chance of understanding them. We also model for them the way we want to be listened to. Have you ever had a conversation with someone where you were interrupted constantly, where that person kept diverting the conversation to themselves, where your experiences were only launching pads to their own stories? We have a chronic listening deficit in the Western world, maybe globally. We're taught from a very young age that if we shut up and listen, we're passive, giving up an advantage, that we will gain nothing from the interaction. I disagree. By listening to those around me, by giving those with the greatest need to talk a chance to be heard, I have forged deep and meaningful relationships, helped people find their place in the world, and ultimately had opportunities to express my own ideas in a wider range of forums than I would have otherwise. Listening is the base of every workshop I teach. It's inevitably the hardest part for participants. Being still and listening to others is much harder than standing up and telling a story. It's harder than finding the new company vision, harder than working through your own life for your next story. Without listening, without being listened to and listening to others, those tasks become much more challenging. Sorry, I need new glasses. We can learn to be better listeners. It's a skill like any other. Next time you're talking with someone you love, just listen to them. Don't interrupt with a question or your opinion. Just pay attention and listen. Wait until they wind down before you praise, ask, or empathize. You may learn something you never knew. Just try letting the interrupter talk. Listen to them. You may find they wind down after a while and become your ally because you are the person who actually took the time to hear them. Listen to those whose views you oppose. You may find they have the same basic concerns that you do. They love their families, care about their communities, and want to be happy just as much as you do. By listening to them, you may teach them that the enemy isn't so frightening after all. If you can extend them that kindness, maybe they can extend it back to you. Leaders need to be great listeners. They must remember that everyone in their organization has their own measure of wisdom and opinion. By listening to them, you may learn things you never knew about process, engagement, success or failure, and potential improvement, but you must be willing to listen. It's difficult. We all want to share our own stories and have our own voice. You will have that chance, but if you can listen, you may learn more about the world and yourself than you ever expected. My name is Laura Packer. I'm the author of From Audience to Zeal, the ABCs of Finding, Crafting, and Telling a Great Story. The Audience to Zeal book and the workbook are available at the Small Toothed Dog Publishing Group, and I urge you, listen to the world. You don't know what kinds of stories you might hear, and then let me know. I'd love to find out. Thanks.